For 12 years, Cross the Nations have been travelling the globe, carrying a cross and a message of love and hope. They've seen God do the impossible and change the lives of countless people. But now it's time to hear the truth. It's time to hear the story of Cross the Nations.
So the two fellows that have taken me to the medical centre, remember I said they were part of the Olympic judo team for Bulgaria. In fact, one of them, the older of the two, had got a silver in the European Championships. He'd also got a gold medal in the World Military Tournament. So he's right up there, you know.
Yeah.
And they'd left actually quite some time before Alan turned up. And so they got this other fella off the street who could speak some English, and his name was Angel or Angle.
Yeah.
And so while I was kind of like just recovering, he was at the foot of my bed. And as soon as I was in a condition to be able to communicate with somebody, I remember just saying to him, you know, Angle, as soon as I get out of here, me and you need to have a chat. And he said, oh, really? Do we? I said, yeah, we need to have a conversation. I said, because while I've been laying here looking at you, I said, I really feel like God's been talking to me about you. He said, has he? I said, he has. And I need to talk to you about some things in your life that's happened in the past. And so he was like, okay, all right then. He said, well, look, he said, you're not leaving my town until you're well. I'm going to take care of you. So actually what happened at the end was that when I was eventually released from the hospital, and as I was being released, the woman that had been sort of treating me, she said, 4 days, no walking, 4 days, rest up. And Angle actually had arranged for us to stay in this hotel up on the mountain, a bit further up on the mountain. And I thought, you know, when she said 4 days, I think Alan and I looked at each other and we just laughed, smiled. You know, that was never going to happen. So he took us up to this hotel, and we got up to the hotel and stayed there. And in the morning, I remember waking up early in the morning, got dressed. I felt 100%. I mean, I felt not just better, I felt better than I felt in months. You know, I felt really well, you know. And so I insisted, as we left the hotel, I insisted that I carried the cross down the mountain. And I carried it down the mountain. It's quite early in the morning. And we got down to the town. And we had arranged to meet up with Angle and his girlfriend anyway in a cafe. And we did that. And Steve, while Alan and I were sat there talking to Angle, Steve had gone outside and he was giving gospel tracts to anything that moved. You know, in fact, everywhere we looked, there were groups of people carrying these gospel tracts. It was hilarious because we were just sat in this cafe chatting, and Steve was out there saving the world. You know, it was great. But that's kind of like what he was doing and what he did really. Much of the Bulgarian trip, he was brilliant at sharing the gospel with people. But anyway, I had a chat with Angle and got an opportunity to walk through a park on my own with him. And we went off for a little chat, as I say, in a park. And I just began to share some of the things that God showed me about his life while I was laying in the bed. in the medical center. So I was sharing some of these things with him, and he was looking at me sort of in disbelief, and kind of like he was acknowledging, as I was talking, he was acknowledging what I was saying as true. He got very emotional, and it wasn't long into that conversation, as we're walking through this park, that he got down on his knees with me and invited Christ into his life, which was an incredible thing. Yeah. Incredible thing, isn't it? So that was quite amazing. The whole trip was crazy. That experience was crazy.
Yeah.
Though probably I need to just say, we reached the capital, which was Plovdiv.
Yeah, it's not the capital, but we got to Plovdiv, didn't we? Yeah.
Right. So we reached, it was a halfway, I think it's probably halfway in the journey. So we got to this city called Plovdiv, and I think we had about enough money on us to get a coffee each. So the 3 guys, we've got enough money for 3 coffees. And I said to Alan, well, if we're going to have a coffee, let's have a decent one. And it just turned out that, you know, Bulgaria's got 3 Costa coffee shops in the whole of the nation. And Plovdiv's got one of the Costa coffee shops. So we went there and we sat outside and we was drinking our coffee, and 2 couples come and sat pretty near us, and they noticed the cross leaning up against the little partitioning there. And they asked us, you know, what are you doing? Why are you walking with this cross? And we were telling them some of the stories. And Alan kept kind of like nudging me, saying, come on, tell them what's just happened to you. Tell them what's just happened to you, because it was just literally the day before. And so I started telling them the whole story about, you know, me getting this serious allergic reaction and what had happened to me and how God saved me and how he rescued me and delivered me from that. And anyway, so one of the ladies of the couples kind of was asking me lots of kind of specific questions, really medical questions. And I was thinking, well, you know, why are you asking that? But anyway, so after the conversation finished, they walked off, and about 5 minutes later, this woman came back. She said, I had to come back. She said, I had it in my heart. I had to come and say this to you. She said, I'm a GP in Northern Ireland. And she said, I'm astounded by your story. She said, and I had to come back and tell you that there is no earthly reason why you should still be alive. There's no reason why you should be alive. She said, the only thing I can think of is that there's a purpose for your life, and your life has been spared for a special reason.
My name's Heather, and this is Mike. I met him on the outside a coffee shop in Plovdiv in Bulgaria, and he was telling me the story about what happened to him a couple of days ago. I was a GP listening to this story of how he became unwell. He was swelling, having a very bad allergic reaction. He was sitting in a chair, barely able to move, couldn't even speak, and had to write a message on his phone. And he ended up by people helping him. He got to a hospital in Bulgaria and they actually managed to save his life, which, and by all rights, I can't believe he actually his life was saved. I think he really, the time needed to help him, he should really have died. And it was just very obvious to me that God intervened and brought him to a place where he had a purpose for him. And he really should be dead, by all rights, humanly speaking. So I wanted to tell him that. So I'm putting on recording for you.
And I was a bit taken back by that, because, you know, Alan and I have so many crazy things happen to us that, you know, and they're very rarely verified by a professional, because usually there's nobody around. But on this particular occasion, you know, a GP is saying these things to me. And so she made a little video and just basically verified that what's happened to me is not normal, that it can't be medically explained, and that it had to have been a miracle.
Yeah, brilliant.
It's incredible. People might be watching Across the Nations, these episodes, they might have, you know, heard your stories, and if they're anything like me, they'll be thinking, yeah, I'd love to get out there and do that. What an adventure, like, and you're thinking, like, you know, you're living the high life. But then I sit and I hear a story like that, and I realise that this is serious. Like this, what you do, as exciting as it is, I'm sure it is, and the amazing miracles that you see, there is a cost to it that you know, that I think it has taken its toll in different ways. And I know, you know, that is a huge thing that's happened to you, Mike, and I know something happened to you as well, Alan, didn't it, when you came back from a crosswalk?
Yeah, I mean, not quite as dramatic as Mike's, but I mean, that was, I mean, it takes the biscuit. I sometimes think we try and outdo each other who can get in the worst scrape.
Yeah.
But I did a crosswalk in the Czech Republic just a few years back. And again, it took another young intern with me, a young guy called Josiah, walking with me. And I was so glad he was with me. And he walked with me for the second half of the walk across the Czech Republic. And we got to a city called Ostrava, which is right in the east, quite near to the border with Poland. And we had two churches we were speaking at on the Sunday. And I can remember on the Sunday morning, I spoke at a church, and there's a young lady there called Denisa, who I knew she'd lived in the UK before. She was translating for me. And then she and a couple of other guys took us out for lunch, Sunday lunchtime. And unusually for me, when we were having lunch, I didn't really want anything. I started to feel unwell. And then in the Sunday afternoon, again, I preached in the afternoon. And at the end, I said, if anyone wants prayer, my assistant will pray with them. Because I was really, by that point, I was completely wiped out. And I don't know what it was. So when we got back to where we were staying, there's some guys there, some American guys who were like missionaries out there. They tried to help as best they can. They asked a few people. I don't know, I had some paracetamol and stuff. And I just basically slept. What was really kind was the next day, these American guys paid for us to get the train back to Prague. We got like an express train. It was like being in business class on an aeroplane. It was really lovely. So we got on the train. Josiah was with me, thankfully. And when we got to Prague, we had probably 3 or 4 hours to kill. And it would have been lovely to go sightseeing, but I just didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to sit and do nothing. And so Josiah said, well, I'm not going to leave you. So I went with him a bit, but we didn't really go very far. And I was feeling quite bad. Anyway, we got to the airport and my flight was first. And Josiah kind of saw me to the gate to make sure I got on my plane. And I remember I didn't say anything. I was worried, actually, that if I said anything, they might not let me fly. Yeah. So I got on the plane. I slept all the way home, got back to the UK, got off the plane. And I can remember when I was picking my luggage up, the cross and that, it just happened. I'd flown with British Airways, so I was Terminal 5, Heathrow. A British Airways manager just said to me, oh, that's an unusual bit of equipment. What have you got in there? So I said to him, I've got a big wooden cross. I just walked across the Czech Republic with it. And then I said to him, could you do me a favor? I said, I'm not feeling too good. Would you help me? And he actually put all my stuff on a trolley and he walked me out of the terminal. Wow, and literally as he walked me out, Sarah pulled in the car, Sarah, my wife. Yeah. So I got in the car. And Sarah said, I knew something wasn't right. She said, because you never said anything all the way home, back home. Anyway, I remember we had a meeting the next day with a social worker who wanted to speak to me about the adoption of our daughter. And it was a meeting we couldn't put off. And I remember I was sat on the sofa with a blanket around me. I was shivering. I was feeling really unwell. But to be honest, I was thinking, I just got man flu. And my wife was thinking the same. And I remember it was the May half term. The next day, she said, come on, let's go out, go to the park with our daughter, Kristen. So we go out to the park and we got out the car and I threw up in the bushes. She said, all right, we'll take you home. And that afternoon, she said, I felt like a pain in my body. And she said, I know I've got to ring a doctor. So she rang up our doctor, our GP for our local surgery. And she said, obviously, I don't know what she said because I wasn't listening, but obviously said, and they said, we've got an appointment in 10 minutes. bring him down. So literally got in the car, got in, saw the doctor straight away, which never happens in the UK, really, does it?
Yeah.
You get a doctor's appointment like that. And she checked me over and she said to Sarah, she said, now, do you want me to call an ambulance or can you take him to the hospital because he needs to go to hospital? And I'm thinking, I've just got the flu.
Yeah.
Anyway, it turned out that I had pneumonia. How I got it, I've no idea. But I wasn't even aware that I had any difficulty breathing necessarily, but obviously, but I was feeling really weak. So anyway, they took me to hospital. I was in, so within, I reckon, 45 minutes of my wife ringing the doctor, I was in a hospital in casualty on a drip. I mean, that's how quick things happened. I was so relieved. And as it turned out, they said that I had pneumonia and I also had sepsis, which I later found out that about 1 in 3 people who get sepsis die of it. So, yeah, my life was in the balance and I had no idea whatsoever. How I caught it, I've no idea. Yeah. So there I was, wiped out. Now, it didn't take very long, maybe 4 or 5 days, and I kind of recovered from that. And they said, just go home and rest up for a while. And I said, well, how long's a while? And they said, well, as long as you need. But it was a good couple of months. And I was really surprised. It really took out me. I was actually walking with a walking stick for a few weeks because I just felt so weak all the time and I'd need to sleep in the afternoon. And that was just recovering from it. And it shocked me. It really did shock me to realize that, because you think when you do these things that you're invulnerable. You do. You think, I've got faith. You know, you've got faith in your own ability, your wisdom, your strength. I'm not someone who's normally ill or anything like that. I'd never, ever spent time in hospital in all my life up until that point. And you think you're invulnerable. And then suddenly, all of a sudden, I realized how vulnerable we are. You know, Mike's vulnerable, I'm vulnerable, we're all vulnerable. And, you know, death can come at any moment. And for me, it just made me realize how much we have to make the most of the time that we've got now. You know, it's so crucial.
I mean, when you go through something like that, when you experience what you've both experienced, like to be on the edge of death, like, you know, I don't think I'm exaggerating by saying that. Like, do you ever, I mean, there must be times when you do think like, this isn't for me anymore. Like, you know, you come back, you've had pneumonia. I never knew that you were on a walking stick and stuff. I never knew it got that bad. If it was me, I'd be thinking, nah, this is enough for me now. I've had my time. But I mean, you know, especially looking back on Bulgaria and stuff like that, how do you process something like that? What's your thoughts on because you've never had anaphylactic shock since or even before that, Mike? And it's kind of like, how do you have any ideas what you think might have been going on?
Well, I mean, you know, we don't like to think, you know, that of ourselves too highly in the sense of, you know, we're doing such an amazing job. You know, we're such powerful evangelists or anything like that. We're a target. But you know, we are a target. We're all a target. We've got an enemy that hates us. And hates what we do, and hates the fact that we're out there sharing the gospel with people. And the devil doesn't want that to happen, does he? And so, oftentimes we can tell when you know a plan is being sabotaged, or you know our mission's being sabotaged, but the whole feeling of I don't want to do this anymore. Let's stop doing this now. It's got crazy, you know. Yeah. After some of the things we've been through, you know, that's a normal, you know, a thought that would go through your mind, but it doesn't last in our minds very long. Yeah. Even when it comes. Because I think we both know that this is what God's called us to. We've got a mandate to walk the whole of Europe. And, you know, when I think how crazy things have been at times, before I had my heart bypassed, in March 2017, just literally the November and December before that, we were walking from Malaga to Gibraltar. And I was having as I know now, I was having heart disease pain, angina pain. I think there were times it got so bad it was probably a minor heart attack while we were on the crosswalk. I remember one time we was walking up a hill. I've got the cross on my shoulder and Alan's got his hand on my chest. And we're walking like that. And he's praying. And as he's praying, I'm getting relief of the pain. And we're walking along like that. It's just ridiculous. Crazy. As I say, it's not surprising we've been given the name the Crazy Brothers. But yeah, of course, the enemy wants us to give up. He wants us to be sidelined. He wants us to forfeit our destiny and forfeit what God's got on our lives. And of course, sometimes it doesn't make any sense. Why would we carry on doing this, in that condition? Why would you walk in that condition? We trust God. We believe God. We believe the promises of God. We believe that even though our things might be going on in our bodies, and we're not into denial, faith is not denial. Faith doesn't deny that there's an issue in our bodies, but faith denies that issue a place of dominance, but rather allows the promises of God to be the dominant thing of our focus. Yeah. And so we keep walking, we keep going. We're not getting any younger. As Paul says, on the outside, we're falling apart, but on the inside, we're being renewed day by day. And the joy of the Lord is our strength. We keep laughing all the time. And it's amazing some of the situations we've been in where we've just come out laughing and it's not funny at the time, it's really scary, but we keep going, and the joy of the Lord really is our strength, and we keep laughing and we keep seeing the funny side of things. And that's.
I think one of the key moments in all of that is when we did the walk across Bulgaria. We were in a church in Sofia, in the capital city. And I remember Mike was preaching, and he said something which you could think was hyperbole, really, because he said, I am prepared to lay down my life, if that's what's required of me, in order to take the gospel to this nation. And I remember, as he said it, that really struck me, because I thought, "Ooh, that's a serious thing to say." That's something that really kind of hit me, because I thought, am I prepared to do that? Is that what's in my heart? Because that's a tall order to ask. But when you look down through the ages, there are people who've gone as missionaries, who've laid down their lives for the gospel, to take the gospel to people who've never heard. And it's one thing to say it, it's one thing to preach it, but it's another thing altogether if you find you're in this situation and actually that's maybe is what is required of you in order to further the gospel. And I believe on some occasions that is true. But generally, we're hoping that the Lord gives us a long, happy, fruitful lives on this earth in order that we can be as effective as possible. 'Cause death is just a doorway into resurrection.
Really hope you've enjoyed this episode of Cross the Nations. I hope that it's inspiring you and showing you that with God, anything is possible. If you've ever met Mike and Alan along the way and you've got a story, we'd love to hear it. So please get in touch at hello@crossthenations.com. Thanks for watching.